and good to have you with us in this edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, after much controversy around the Ayurvedic medicine coronil, today there was another news briefing by Yoga Guru Ramdev and his team. Now, while the team for Patanjali emphasized that they never claimed this was a cure for COVID, they only said that this is what can help you and boost your immunity. The government has allowed them to sell these products, to sell coronil drug, as long as COVID is not really mentioned. It's not mentioned as a COVID drug, as long as they don't promote it as a COVID cure. That being said, viewers, that part being clarified, while Yoga Guru Ramdev was talking about all of this, he actually triggered another big debate. He actually lashed out and gave a long, angry monologue about this so-called lobby against the Ayurvedic drugs and Ayurvedic medicines, or Ayurveda as a science. Ramdev was extremely angry. He even lashed out at the big pharmaceutical companies and said that there is a concerted attempt to constantly block Ayurveda. And so tonight we thought we will take up this conversation one more time, especially at a time when you have a government in the center that does give a lot of importance to alternative sciences and medicines, that does give a huge push to Ayurveda and similar sciences. Then why is it? And is there still a concerted lobby? Is there still an organized attempt? That's the big question. But before I set the conversation going, I want you to listen to what Ramdev had to say in the morning. Listen in.
ये टाई साई पहनने वाले ये तो रिसर्च करते थे, ये लंगोटी धोती पहनने वाले कब से रिसर्च करने लगे? तो तुमने ठेका ले रखा है कि तुम ही रिसर्च करोगे? एक सन्यासी एक साइंटिस्ट की भूमिका में नहीं हो सकता, एक आचार्य वो जो है उस साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी में रिसर्च में काम नहीं कर सकता। ये कौन सी अस्पृश्यता है? ये एक नई इंटचेबिलिटी, एक नई अस्पृश्यता, एक नई घृणा, एक नया उन्माद, ये किस तरह का हेट का दौर है? ये किस प्रकार से एक पूरी की पूरी एक सामंतवादी, एक साम्राज्यवादी सोच है कि कोई वेद पढ़ा हुआ, कोई भगवा कपड़ा पहनने वाला, कोई सन्यासी, कोई आचार्य कैसे रिसर्च कर सकता है? हमने योग आयुर्वेद की रिसर्च के लिए लगभग 10,000 करोड़ रुपए का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर खड़ा किया है इस देश के लोगों की ताकत से, उनके आशीर्वाद से, उनके स्नेह से। और अभी मैंने कहा ये तो एक क्लिनिकल कंट्रोल ट्रायल के डाटा सामने रखे तो पूरी मॉडर्न मेडिकल साइंस में तूफान सा उठा, और उन्हीं के बनाए हुए प्रोटोकॉल्स के अकॉर्डिंग, उन्हीं के बनाए हुए रिसर्च पैरामीटर्स के अकॉर्डिंग हमने ये कार्य आगे बढ़ाया है।
You heard that, an extremely passionate and emotional speech being made there by Yoga Guru Ramdev. Now, I just wanted to reiterate some of the comments that he made, because these are very important statements. These are very, very interesting things that he said. ये लंगोटी धोती पहनने वाले कब से रिसर्च करने लगे? ये कैसी सोच है? He is actually making this about also the way people are judged on the basis of their dressing and attire, not just about the science. He says एक सन्यासी एक साइंटिस्ट की भूमिका में नहीं हो सकता है क्या? एक आचार्य साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी में काम नहीं कर सकता है? ये एक और नई अनटचेबिलिटी है। ये किस तरह का हेट का दौर है? This hate against the people who may believe in Ayurveda, who may be researchers and doctors of sciences like Ayurveda. Why is this happening right now? What is this new wave of hate that has begun? So viewers, my question is very simple. Is there a certain amount of unjustified hate against such scientists? Is it all right to compare and label simple questions about a drug to say, well, this is an agenda about an entire science? Are we prejudiced in that fashion? That based on what people wear, we dismiss their science, we dismiss the logic that they are giving us, no matter how important and how crucial or factual and valid it may be. That's the simple question I'm asking this evening. What really got Baba Ramdev so angry? Let's say good evening to Dr. Sukumar Sadeshmukh, trustee of BSDT Wagholi and director for Ayurvedgram. Dr. Asmita Wele, professor at College of Ayurved, Bhartiya Vidyapeeth, Pune. We've also got Dr. SHRUTI TANDAN, consultant for critical care at Jaslok Hospital and Research Center, and Dr. SUMAIYA SHAIKH, neuroscientist with the Linköping University Hospital in Sweden. And that's where Dr. Shaikh actually is joining us this evening on this special conversation. But let me actually first up go across to Dr. Sardeshmukh. Dr. Sardeshmukh, do you agree with what Baba Ramdev said? Do you agree that there is still a organized, hate campaign and perhaps an organized mafia that is out to derail the entire Ayurvedic, or at least, defame it in some ways?
Yeah, we cannot say there is a mafia, but we can say yes, there has been always a defamation been done towards Ayurveda from the modern fraternity, and we have already observed it in many ways. Lot of the things which he has said is what he has said in the way is not, I think so. It cannot be said appropriate, but the content is truly appropriate. Ayurveda has already been considered as alternative medicine, or it has been considered as a jadi booty medicine by the modern allopathic fraternity. So I think it has been undersigned, or you can say it has been already told that Ayurveda is been deframed by the allopathy industry.
No, but I would understand if this was a fear many years ago or decades ago. Why do you say this still exists? Especially now, in the last 6-8 years, we've even seen the government push Ayurveda and all the other alternate, medicine sciences, the ones that have been part of India's heritage, from Unani to homeopathy and Ayurveda. Then, Dr. Sardeshmukh, why is there still this, large amount of concern about the sentiment?
The central government has definitely taken a huge step by forming the Ayush Ministry to promote Ayurveda in a very different way and a very proper way, and not only Ayurveda but also Unani and other sciences. But the main thing is that, ma'am, I'll give you some examples. See, we all know that the doctors who really work in the country or who already work in the village part of the India, they are all Ayurveda doctors who work in the primary health centers, who work in the rural health centers, and they are all Ayurvedic doctors. They are not the modern practitioners, most of them. And what happens is that still they are working also in the cities, in the ICUs, who are all Ayurvedic doctors or BMS doctors. And when we say that if at a COVID care hospital, and if a patient comes to an Ayurvedic doctor and he wants to suggest him to take a COVID test, he's not allowed. So I don't get the point that if we are a registered medical practitioner of the Indian government under the fraternity of Ayurveda, why we are not allowed? We are allowed to handle the cases in the ICU, but we are not allowed to give them, to prescribe them, or to tell them to take a COVID-19 test. They have to go to the flu department, or they have to go to the flu clinic. Why this thing is done? So there is somewhere.
Okay, let me get it. Our other panelists as well, Dr. SHRUTI Tandan, what would you like to say to that? We more and more voices are coming in from the Ayurvedic side saying there is definitely a bias, there is definitely some kind of discrimination that still exists.
At that point of time, what the patient needs is
Dr. SHRUTI Tandan,
allopathy.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah. So, critically, we are not debating the use of Ayurveda and alternative forms of medicine for chronic illnesses. But in cases of acute illnesses, when a patient is critically ill, I don't think there is any Ayurvedic substitute to a ventilator or to oxygen therapy. So it's really not a battle. And with due respect to everybody here, I'm not even flagging off that there is any allopathic drug which works wonders in COVID. But what works is organ support and supportive care for which there is no substitute in Ayurveda. With regards to the mild illnesses and moderate illnesses, they recover just by themselves. And the therapy given in allopathy also is just symptomatic therapy. So to say that a drug has given 100% cure, whether it is Ayurvedic or allopathic, it doesn't matter, because it's for the mild cases, it behaves like the common flu, which recovers on its own. So what we are looking for is a cure for the severe COVID, which coronal cannot substitute for. And I think we should shy away from making such claims and of using coronal, of using albus, whatever that, arsenic alb, because these are creating a false sense of security in the public, and then they're landing up in the hospital critically ill because they think that this drug will save them. We, in fact, had a patient in Jaslok Hospital who took arsenic alb 5 doses and came to us with toxicity. And he was in altered consciousness level. Because of that, we had to put him on a ventilator. So we really need to be careful when we flag off these drugs, that we are dealing with a sick, with a very critical illness, with a very high mortality rate, if it is not treated appropriately.
So that's very interesting, the example you've given, Dr. Tandon. What kind of drugs or Ayurvedic medicines, or was this patient taking, and was he under the impression that it is for curing corona in any manner?
So this particular patient I'm talking about belonged to a containment zone, and he got the fear of that he will get COVID. So he took 5 doses of the homeopathic medicine, which was being advertised in a similar way, arsenic alb. And he had altered sensorium. He landed up in our ICU. We had to put him on ventilator. And it turns out that he did have COVID also. But the medicine did not save him. In fact, it may have produced contrary effects. So we need to be careful when we misguide the public like this. When we are talking about a mild illness, there is nothing that we have against Ayurveda. And as a citizen of India, even I take malathi ka pani and desi cures when I have a common cough cold. And I don't say that it has a 100% cure rate. I just take it and feel happy in myself that I'm following a science that has been there in my country for generations. But to push a drug in an illness which is critically ill, can coronal be used in ICU patients? No. And are we talking about use of coronal in mild and moderate patients, which would recover anyways? So it doesn't make sense. So we really need to find out that where do we want a drug? We want a drug in the critical patients who are needing organ support. And I'm telling you this with no bias. Coronal doesn't work. Favipiravir, remdesivir don't work in this class of patients if you look at the data. So what works here is organ support, is ventilation. And I don't think that Ayurveda or homeopathy have any Ayurvedic or homeopathic options for using a mechanical ventilator or critical care. And that's what we have to remember, that in the end, it's the critically ill patients who have the high mortality.
Yes, okay. So let me take this point to Dr. Asmita Wele. Dr. Asmita, right now this fight has become, and this divide has become even more prominent because of coronavirus. And here, on one side you see many homeopathic and Ayurvedic solutions being pushed to people, saying whether it's immunity booster. Many of the doctors would then say कि आप ये खा लीजिए तो आपको कोरोना वायरस नहीं होगा या आप कोरोना वायरस से ठीक हो जाएंगे. I think a lot of the reaction that's coming from the allopathic side or modern science or whatever it is that you want to call it is coming from this, that you are misleading people where it's not necessary. For this disease, what is needed to be for proper treatment for serious patients is just oxygen or ventilator support. Beyond that, अभी तो सब ढूंढ ही रहे हैं, अभी तो सब research कर ही रहे हैं.
Okay. I have to say, definitely I have to say this, that there is no cure in any of the pathies. She herself just now said that there is no cure from modern medicine and there is no cure from allopathy or Ayurveda or homeopathy, even Unani. So this is something very new which has come to us, and we are just trying to maintain the patients who are landing into serious conditions, and there definitely the life-saving supports are more important than the actual drug. Now coming to your second part of your question is why we are telling people to support or get their immunity, make their immunity better and strong. This is a general principle coming from modern medicine, that in any viral condition, the body's defense mechanism fails, and that's where the virus starts making its copies, and then it goes, and then the condition worsens, and then the patient is lands up in a fatal condition. So at this point, Ayurveda can definitely come in with a view that, okay, we have certain well-known remedies, we have certain tried and tested plant medicines which help increase and boost the innate immunity. Now, innate immunity, which we know today, is known in Ayurveda since ages. We call it Vyadhikshamatva, Vyadhi Pratikara Shakti, and then it is translated as immunity. And therefore, we definitely would like to tell common people, tell the general population that you can protect yourself up to a certain limit. And that's what Ayurveda says, and that's what is any professor, any physician would definitely do. Try to help the patient, not in the severe conditions, but to land up. You can save. See, everybody's aim is same. You have to save the patient before he lands into a level from where it's very difficult to bring him back. And that is the objective. So people definitely would work on that. And if my esteemed colleague's proposal or her say is like this, that no medicine can work, then why the other remdesivir, other medicine from Glenmark is also being proposed and tried? So everybody in the field is going to work just to maintain the health of the patient and try to see how they can help in a better way. That's what it is, I think. Let us not make it, more controversial.
Okay, so we have a limited time on this conversation, and I don't think it's enough to go into merits or demerits of one science versus the other. What I do want to focus more on right now is what Baba Ramdev has said today. And it's a conversation and it's a debate that's happened in the past, but it's renewed now in times of a pandemic, in times of all this, treatment around coronavirus that is being discussed. And here is Baba Ramdev, who's made a drug that he's now selling, and it has landed in a controversy. And he's obviously angry about it. And he says, well, ऐसा क्यों है कि सिर्फ टाई शाई मॉडर्न साइंस वाले रिसर्च कर सकते हैं या मेडिसिन बेच सकते हैं? What about those with sannyasis? Why can't they be into research? What about those who wear langotis or who are into Ayurveda? Why are they being blocked? Why is there such hate against Ayurveda? Is that what it is? That's the question that I'm asking. Dr. SUMAIYA Shaikh, is there a concerted effort? Is there some kind of a reaction that you see from allopathy side to say, no, let's just stop this here. This is as much as importance as you can give to something like Ayurveda.
Thank you for having me here. So I don't think there is any controversy whatsoever. When we are talking about Ayurveda, I personally don't have a problem with Ayurveda. I think it's done some great things, but we have to accept the limitations of the treatment system. Without accepting the limitations, we cannot move forward. I think my biggest problem with any of the other medications outside of the what I call is the evidence-based medicine or evidence-based science is that they do not go through the same scrutiny as the regular, evidence-based medicine does. And if an Ayurvedic product, for example, this Coronil, goes through the same scrutiny, goes through the same peer-reviewed process, and by the way, a lot of the drugs also don't go through that process. And for those who do, they get a lot of slack from even what you call as allopathic doctors. Favipiravir, what my colleague here mentioned, it's been getting a lot of slack, and it has gone through that scrutiny. And that's why we know that even if some manufacturer comes around and says, here is a product, take this, we know it's not going to be 100% curing for COVID. For a new disease like COVID, however, Ayurveda, what it's done is it's gone back and forth between immunity boosting versus COVID treatment. And of course, there is no problems with whoever's dressed whichever way, provided that they go through a specific process that is designed for research, has been tested for years and years to a gold standard. Now, when they've gone back and forth between immunity and COVID treatment, let me just put it out there. There is nothing that can actually boost your immunity in an innate way, as my colleague here just pointed out. There is absolutely nothing that you can do to boost your immunity. You can have your good sleep, exercise, good level of sun exposure, and good diet. But besides that, we cannot boost immunity through a herbal cure. There is no proof that we can do that. Our innate immunity, which is like the linings, the linings of our throat, and the internal organs where the lungs, where the virus goes into, that is like a barrier that protects all the external kind of pathogens like viruses to stop entering from our body. And once it goes there, the cells over there kind of send a signal to activate this adaptive immunity, which is, it takes a few days and few weeks maybe. That is what actually cures COVID in those mild to moderate people, that adaptive immunity. So when we're talking about boosting immunity with drugs, it's never been proven that anything that you can actually, through an evidence-based care, that anything that you can take will boost your immunity. So all these claims that they're making hasn't been tested before. Do the claims, then test them. Test them, get them into the mainstream, and let everybody benefit from it. Why is it only limited to a specific area? And then it's also linked with nationalism. It's also linked with, a specific type of people that are, wearing these specific clothes. There is no difference on whoever does this type of research. It's like it has to go through the same process as everybody else.
Okay.
The second thing that we talk about immunity is that in diseases where you have a higher immunity, such as asthmatic attacks, you can actually get killed because your immunity is higher than you're not supposed to recognize pathogens, dust particles and those things like pathogens, and have an attack against it. So when you're talking about immunity, this is like a very new, different concept as well. With COVID, we've just realized that a lot of the young people who don't have any of the comorbidities and stuff, they're dying because of a cytokine storm, what we call it. And that is basically your immune system really pumping up to trying to protect your body, but in the end killing it. So cytokines is these proteins that are released also in pro-inflammatory mediators, what they call them. They release these proteins to actually protect you, which is actually a response of your immune system. Your immune system being increased to this point, but actually damages it. So we have to talk about how immune system.
Point taken. Yeah. Let me. Yes. So there is obviously a clear distinction that has to be made between immunity and what helps to boost your immunity, and to what extent can you really do it. And if overnight, if you start popping pills or taking some Ayurvedic concoctions, if it's actually going to help you protect yourself from corona. That's one part. But the other part that was raised here by a panelist, and maybe I can take that back to Dr. Sardeshmukh. Dr. Sardeshmukh, our panelists are also saying that Ayurvedic medicines can be used to a certain extent, but when the health condition reaches a certain critical stage, then other methods will have to come into use, and that's where the distinction is being drawn. You can help with maybe giving some concoctions for immunity boosting, but when it comes to a serious critical patient, then you can't be using this science there anymore.
I think we have to always keep in mind that every pathy has its pros and cons. Allopathy has been always there for the emergency medicine. We know that. Ayurveda has also been there in the classical text, been told for the emergency medicine, but also for the treatment for the systematic relief. Let me tell you that my colleague just now said about the immunity. There are tons of papers been published into PubMed, which is again modern journals, and they have been saying that haldi or haridra or turmeric or ashwagandha is immunomodulatory action, or it has been anti-inflammatory action, and they have been definitely been used in upper respiratory tract infections or any viral infections. Now, let us know that this viral infection, which we are talking about just now, corona, is a new infection which has come up. In Ayurveda, in Charak Samhita, it has already been told if there is any new infection, new disease or new condition, you have to study that and you have to give the treatment. I just wanted to tell my colleague here that the kada which we make, it is a process. Everything has a process. Sanskaropi punantaradan. That means that whenever we do a process, it increases the gunas in it. It increases the properties in it. We are taking numerous herbs which are useful in upper respiratory tract infections and been proved by the modern journals that it is immunomodulatory action and anti-inflammatory, already been proved. The best example is giloy, gudvel or guduchi, which we tell. And such herbs, if we consume every day, it's definitely going to help. That is for sure. Yes, for emergency medicine, if the patient is into the fatal stage, we do agree sometimes we need more modern help, that is ventilators and oxygen. But I don't know, this is by the physics. It's not the modern allopathy which has done that. It's the physics which has done that. So it's not with a specific science. We are doing a research in cancer. We are also treating allopathy and Ayurveda together. So to reduce the side effects of chemotherapy, Ayurveda is definitely useful. Why we should not accept it as the truth that Ayurveda is definitely useful from the root cause in treating any infections.
No, but the point that is being made here is not just about to what extent it is useful, but the process that needs to be followed and the scrutiny that one set of medicines have versus what Ayurveda have. I will raise that point in just a bit. Let me just ask Dr. Shruti Tandon if she wants to respond to what Dr. Sardeshmukh said.
Yeah, so I think I want to start off with raising the white flag that we are not having a war here. I think what Soumya said is very relevant, that it's not allopathy versus Ayurveda or allopathy versus alternate branches of medicine. I did even now admit that when I have allergic rhinitis, so I do commonly take the kadha myself, but I understand the limitations of the kadha. And I understand that when I'm doing it, I'm probably doing hot water fermentation to my throat and my sinuses by taking it. And maybe there may be some medicinal property to that. Having said that, when I ask a patient to do deep breathing exercises, pranayam, lie prone, there is some amount of yogasana which is coming into that. But let us understand that COVID-19 is a global pandemic. And Dr. Asmita, to response to your question about boosting immunity, I would be very scared to boost immunity in my patient with COVID, because when they land up in ICU, it's a hyperimmune response. The body is overreacting to the virus. Many of the ICU patients have got a cytokine storm. They have got so much of immunoglobulin, so much of cytokines in their body that it's working against them, as very correctly pointed out by Dr. Soumya. So I don't want a hyperimmune response. I don't need to do much. I am not saying that favipiravir or remdesivir work either. Okay, we have treated hundreds of patients at Jaslok Hospital of COVID-19 and most of them critically ill. And I'm telling you, we have not used favipiravir or remdesivir in a single patient. We were using HCQS at some point of time. I still don't know if it really has a role, but I am not promoting any allopathic drug either. And that's with the same amount of fairness that this is a disease where you need organ support and supportive care. You need symptomatic therapy in mild and moderate disease, and in severe illness, you need organ support and common sense. Okay, let us not cloud people and fool them into believing that some homeopathy or some allopathy or some Ayurveda is going to prevent them from getting a serious COVID. That false sense of security may land up in the patient's example who I gave, and I'm sure my colleagues all over will have it. Where, let's face it, if any of us on the panel land up with severe COVID, we are not going to be taking Coronil or Kada. Okay, we are going to need ventilator support. And Dr. Sukumar, critical care or allopathy is not chemistry. So please don't tell me that ventilator management is physics. We spent years doing physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology. It's an amalgamation of all of it. And most of all, what we use is common sense and instinctive science. Okay, so we are practicing physics and the physics of the mechanical ventilator.
Okay.
But I have years of training to understand that physics of the ventilator.
Yes. Okay, so that part now being, we've heard both sides on it.
I have to say something, Dr. Shruti and Dr. Sumaiya. I understand that you also come from a very specific scientific background, and I would like to admit that, okay, I should use the word immunomodulation rather than immunoboosting, because there is suppression and there is upregulation, both the things which I have a little bit knowledge of. See, when you are saying that nothing is working, and at the same time you gave the example of a patient who took that arsenicum album, which is in the, otherwise it is said that homeopathy doesn't work, it is so negligible amount of medicine you give, and here now you are claiming that because of that medicine there could be that arsenic thing. So I think this is,
he took 5 doses in one day. So do you know what happens?
Ma'am, there are so many examples that the patient has taken hydroxychloroquine and been into a problem.
Even if
there are so many cases that if a patient has taken hydroxychloroquine has turned up into a heart.
Okay. I'm sorry if everybody talks. Okay, if everybody talks at the same time, your voice will get cut. Let's just listen to one after the other. Yes, Dr. Asmita, go ahead, please. Finish your point. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So my point is, okay, if nothing is working, the common person who is frightened needs to have something. And as we know, the databases like PubMed, Scopus, Web of Science, everywhere from the scientific viewpoint, we really find, if you just click, you will find about 5,000 papers on curcuma, which have been, curcuma has been studied as an immunomodulator, anti-inflammatory drug, and there are 300 different activities. Okay, so all that data coming from the scientific side is wrong, we will have to say. I'm not saying that this is specifically useful in COVID-19 again.
No, okay.
Okay, I'm not saying
so
that.
So let me say this. Right, correct. So let me say this. I think we need to make a distinction. Nobody here is rejecting the fact that there may be benefits of one or the other kind of science or its medicines. But the point also has to be of what are you selling it as? What are you telling the people? There are, and we have had so many instances of even in alternate medicine doctors saying, ये खाने से कोविड ठीक हो जाएगा, but वो नहीं होगा और ये हमें किसी को नहीं पता है. Nobody can claim that. If none of the pharmaceutical giants right now selling allopathic drugs can claim that they have found something that cures COVID, neither can anybody else. If the level of scrutiny, if the process is set, Dr. Asmita, for the allopathic drugs, you have to go through a process of trials. You have to prove the efficacy of the drug, the side effects of the drug, the benefits of it. Then you get an approval from the government, from the experts, and then you go and sell it in the market. That benchmark, I feel, and is a point that one of our panelists raised, that has to be the same for the Ayurvedic products or homeopathic products or anything else. Shouldn't it be?
I agree with this, and there is this guideline in the ancient text of Charak Samhita, and which is followed in all the renowned Ayurvedic institutes. I'm saying again, it is followed in all the renowned Ayurvedic institutes that any new thing, any new drug is tested in the laboratory, experimental studies are conducted, phase 1 studies are conducted, and then the drug goes through phase 2 and phase 3, even if there is experiential evidence. In this particular case, certain things may not be correct as they should have been, but it is true for the other drugs which my colleague Dr. Shruti has mentioned. So in all the pathies, similar kind of things are happening, and the pharmaceutical industry is going ahead with whatever they have. Their mottos are different, and the science mottos are different.
Okay.
No,
Can
so
I
we
just
are
make a
not
last point here?
Okay, Dr. Sumaiya Sheikh, would you want to come in and make a point? Yes, Dr. Sheikh.
Absolutely. So basically, it's literally, I am doing science fact checking, and it's my job to read all those papers. So I've read tons and tons of papers in the last 10 years about Ayurvedic formulas, not just Ayurvedic formulas, but herbs on their own and homeopathy. And I've looked really deeply into the mechanism of actions in the way that you just talked about. And you talked about immunomodulation. Well, all those papers actually do not mention increase or decrease as per whatever you wish. No, that's not true. They actually do increase some of the processes like curcumin, as you just mentioned, in Alzheimer's and all these other inflammatory diseases that's been used. But what you're talking about right now in this place is for COVID-19, can those three drugs, Giloy, ashwagandha, and the third drug, can it actually be used, Tulsi, can it be used in COVID-19? Well, the answer to that is none of the clinical trials has been done. None of the trials on even animal models have been done, which is like a precursor to clinical trials. One of the papers that I looked at, what Patanjali actually sent was a computer simulated model. So it was a simulation done in a computer program that looked at the interactions between that particular one drug, Giloy only, not ashwagandha, not other things, with the receptor that they were talking about, the ACE2 receptor. The second one, the second bottle in the 3-pack coronal kit was actually the Swastari Ras, is it called? It had been done on mice, and on mice with the perspective of asthmatic mice induced in the lab. So none of this has actually been even looked at. And you know what? Those asthmatic mice didn't even look that they were actually going to be healed. I've looked at so many of these particular drugs released by Patanjali as well. And I've written about some other drugs that Ayush has been approving, and they've actually had no clinical trials, as we've been calling them, or other trials that actually show that it is working in humans. They're not working, and they do not have a specific immunomodulation as per your choice, as you just mentioned. They either increase or decrease through a specific. But in this case, it is extremely harmful to give these drugs and say they might actually even work, because people might think that, oh, I'm getting better, so it's okay for me to do this and this, which is not, because it's going to increase the pandemic. I think what we're here going through is a crisis. It's an emergency. And let's not, even the Ayush people, or even the regular, what you call allopathy, I call evidence-based medicine, go in a storm and say, let's cure them using a shortcut. No, that's not what we should be doing. I will criticize favipiravir, and I will criticize other hydroxychloroquine-like chemicals, as you call them, drugs that come out, because they have really no effect. But then something recently came out like dexamethasone. It's a steroid. It inhibits immunity at the right time when you need to. It cannot be applied everywhere, but you need to pull your immunity down, as my colleague just mentioned, because if not, it will kill the patient. So do you want to increase immunity and actually kill the person with a mild or moderate illness? A severe illness? No. So COVID can kill people, and we got to understand that we cannot be experimenting at this time without prior experiments, even on animals. I mean, for goodness sake, there's no research on animals either.
And that goes, Dr. Sumaiya Sheikh, for all kinds of medicines and drugs. Irrespective of what science they are based on, it has to go for every single medicine that is being pushed out there. The same level of scrutiny everybody has to face. That's the basic point. I'm completely out of time actually, but Dr. Sardeshmukh, last comment to you, 30 seconds before I wrap up this conversation. Yes, go ahead please. You wanted to say something.
Yes, definitely. Ayurveda has been now going through a proper protocol and research and evidence-based protocols which have been set by the Ayush task force, and they have all the scientists been working on that. The chairman of this task force is a scientist who has already given the same protocols which have been followed by allopathy, and been already 4,000 applications with the formulations and animal study, toxicological study has been done and been presented to the ICMR. They have already been done. They are following the same path of research that modern medicine or any other medicine is doing. That's what we are doing.
50 people for coronal. 50 people for coronal. That's all they've been doing.
And hydroxychloroquine, what happened? Why did they take it back? And then the WHO said that we have to study more. Why did this happen? Why did you give the patients hydroxychloroquine?
We are admitting that hydroxychloroquine is not working. We are admitting that favipiravir and remdesivir are not working. And we did not
Yes, I think everybody right now admits it, and that has to be the benchmark. I'm sorry, I'm completely out of time, so I will have to come in here and interrupt this conversation. I wish we had more time, but lots more stories to address. Thank you so much, all four of you, for joining us on this conversation. It was a constructive conversation where everybody heard each other out. Viewers, I just want to say this. There is some merit to what Baba Ramdev said when he said there is some amount of hate or disdain that comes towards Ayurveda. Now, maybe that's exaggerated and amplified in the current scenario, but I do believe that without knowing or understanding, it isn't right to judge any kind of science. That being said, it isn't right, again, for anybody, irrespective of whether it's homeopathy or allopathy or Ayurveda or any other kind of science, to start pushing your own formulas and your own medicines or drugs or concoctions or herbs or whatever it is that you have to say this is going to cure you or this is going to help you unless and until you can prove that. It is not right for anybody in any part of this world to mislead people at a time where we don't have enough evidence for any of these medicines. There is a process and a system in place, and everybody must go through the same process. Outside of that, if there is a concerted effort to push aside somebody's drug, to push aside somebody's science because you don't understand it, yes, that shouldn't be okay as well. Completely out of time. Thank you for joining us.